Watch the video version of this podcast at olderandwiser.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Older and Wiser. As always, we are perusing recent public opinion surveys, and joining me to do that, my good friend Susan Sikora up there in Northern California. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Did you see this first survey we have today? You're a Catholic, so I'm especially interested in your sort of perspective on this.
Yeah,
Here's
go
the
for
headline. 45% of Americans say the U.S. should be a Christian nation.
And I assume it was done by Christians,
right? Why do Christians feel that it's essential that America be declared a Christian nation?
Insecurity. I think when people feel that, I think they're insecure. I think they need some kind of validation behind them. I don't. To me, if you are practicing anything, I don't care if you're Jewish, Buddhist, Catholic, Hindu, whatever you are, if you are confident that that is the way that you and God have a relationship, you believe in God and you have a relationship with God or a supreme being, then fine. You don't need the rest of the nation to be on the exact same page. There are certain things,
right.
Not if you are confident in your own faith.
What is happening to us? Are we, with this new conservatism that seems to be eking into our world, are we sort of militarizing Christianity? I thought Christians were just going to church and enjoying their lives, but now it feels like they're more interested in making sure the rest of us believe what they believe.
Let me say this. I think it's judgmental, and I think it's also very. It sort of says, it assumes you're as good as God, if not better. Interesting thing. I had gone to confession once and confessed something, and then I still felt guilty about it. Okay. And then somebody said, in terms of talking about this apparently is not uncommon, but somebody said, if you going to confession in your mind says that God has forgiven you, if God has forgiven you and you haven't forgiven yourself, isn't that you putting yourself above God that you believe in?
Yes.
So
Yes.
God's forgiveness was not enough for me. I still have to hold myself to something. All right. And it's kind of the same thing with you all have to believe what I believe. No, I think we have to agree to certain things that will make a society civil. I think going in and shooting people in a school is wrong. I don't care whether you have a religion or you don't have a religion. You don't need a formal religion to tell you
those
that.
basic things that we know, good and bad. Yeah, I think we can all agree on most of that.
Right.
It's just this identification with a particular religion. According to this survey, 6 in 10 U.S. adults say they believe the founders of this country originally intended for the U.S. to be a Christian nation.
I'm glad you went to there because I was going to go to that next, because a lot of people who say this, they are always calling on the founding fathers. Okay, the founding fathers put together something, but wasn't part of what they put together the freedom of being mandated to be a particular religion? Isn't that why supposedly people came here from England? They didn't want to be in the Church of England, and you had to be at that time.
Right.
So they came here for religious freedom, to escape religious persecution. Why would you leave someplace to have something and then undo the something and make everybody else live according to the standards you escaped from?
According to this survey, 28% say that the federal government should declare the U.S. a Christian nation. Again, I don't think the federal government needs to declare anything to anybody, and I don't understand the need for that or why people feel it's important to do that. Fortunately, it was only 28%. Over half say the federal government should never declare any particular region.
They should not. There's a separation of church and state.
Yes.
That is a basis.
But a lot of people these days are saying that isn't what was intended by our founders, this separation of church and state. And many believe that religion should have a greater role in our federal government, which doesn't make any sense at all. It's exactly the opposite of what it says in the Constitution.
Yeah,
Don't know why.
I don't agree. I think religion is a moral code for you personally. I think it's your relationship with a supreme being, God, if you will, and if it informs you, if it brings you closer to God, a particular religion, and it informs you so that your behavior is better in terms of how you treat your fellow man or woman, then fine.
Interesting topic. Okay, let's move on to our next headline. Survey reveals passengers' actual thoughts when it comes to reclining seats, sharing armrests, and more. So we've made a very critical right turn here in in the seriousness of our topics.
Well, maybe not. Maybe
not. Maybe not. Let's talk about airplane travel. When you're sitting in your seat and the guy in front of you pushes that button on his armrest and shoves his seat back into your face, I don't know. It's infuriating. What do you think?
I think it's infuriating, but I don't necessarily think it's the guy's fault. I think it's the fact that they squeeze everybody in like sardines to get the last possible buck out of, the consumer.
Yes.
I understand that things are expensive, but either put a few more bucks on the ticket and take a few more seats out and give everybody space so we don't have that. That's probably why you have all this tension in the air. People are screaming and hollering at everybody.
That's exactly. You feel like you're trapped and that you're just claustrophobic.
That's right.
I think when they first built airplanes and put reclining seats in airplanes, they were spread out more. I think what happened was, as airlines tried to make more money, they added rows and squished the seats together.
Yes.
And now these reclining seats are kind of, they don't work. Because if you recline a seat these days in a crowded plane, you're really impinging on the person behind you.
Yes, and that space was free and floating in the days of old. And now, yes, somebody's now in your lap almost. Most people do not consider flying now a lovely experience because they are crammed in, because everybody's crowded, because it's just all of this stuff. And there's no wonder the bad behavior is going on, because somebody who really doesn't have much of a moral code that we were talking about before, gets easily irritated and wants to take it out on somebody.
77% of travelers recently surveyed that they did think it was rude to fully recline your seat, according to this survey from The Vacationer. 45% of passengers said they would just never recline their seat at all. And I'm among those. I'm 6'4". I'd love to recline my seat, but I don't do it. I will take a long flight and just not even eke my seat back an inch if I can.
No, I probably wouldn't, or at least I would look to see if somebody was behind me. If it was empty, obviously I would. If somebody was there, I might ask. Or if I see that behind me someone is maybe, like you say, a very tall person, or maybe a very heavy person, or just looks uncomfortable. How long is this flight going to be? I mean, if you're antsy, then get up and take a walk around the plane and then come back. I mean, and you can
might
also,
do it
by
if
the
it
way,
was a child.
Yeah.
If I knew there was a child behind me, somebody who had no concern about leg room or any of that.
Yeah.
Also on this survey, they were asking the whole question about the middle seat. Haven't been in a middle seat in many years, but I always felt as though if you've got the middle seat, it's kind of an unwritten rule that you get the armrests, because they can the guy on the aisle can lean this way, the guy on the window can lean to the other direction, but you're stuck.
Yeah.
So
give the person in the middle the two rests. I agree.
You would think that would be true. 63% of people surveyed about the armrest sort of protocol said that they never abide by that, or maybe only abide by that sometimes. 63%. Over half people go, now screw that. I'm putting my arm where I want to put it.
Mm-hmm. I think if you're taking a quick flight somewhere, like if you were going between San Francisco and LA, or between San Francisco and even Phoenix, which is not all that long, you have to sort of say to yourself, can I suck it up for a little bit of time here? I mean, what's going to happen if I can't lay out like I do on my couch at home on this flight that's going to take an hour and 20 minutes or something? I don't know. We're getting a little soft, I guess.
Now, what about luggage? It's important to be able to find a space to put your bag over your seat. sometimes, and on particularly crowded flights, you may get to your seat and realize all the luggage compartments are full or nearly full. I've had that happen. And if I kind of suspect that that's going to be the case, I admit that I have actually thrown my bag into a seat that was forward. On my way to my seat, I'll see a spot and I'll put my bag in there.
Yeah.
And apparently that's kind of not a very nice thing to do, because you could be taking the space of a person who's going to be sitting in that seat right there.
Yeah. I would say, travel as lightly as you possibly can, take as few things as you possibly can, and cooperate once you're on board, because that's what's going to get the plane off on time and everybody's going to get there safe and sound.
Here's a good one.
Hopefully.
63% of travelers surveyed said they would never take their shoes off during a flight. How about you? Would you take your shoes off? I have too. I didn't want to admit it.
But, I used to fly quite a bit. When we lived in the Virgin Islands, we came back and forth quite often, and I would have sandals. But I didn't like to really walk around. I would probably put them on if I was going to walk in the aisle. In fact, I don't want my feet on the floor, and I don't want my feet on the carpeting there. So I'd have to have something else to put on my feet, I think.
Well, two things. One, you've got to have clean feet, clean socks, and you need to keep your feet down in the footwell and do not put it up in between the two seats in front of you. People do that.
Gosh, no, I've never done that.
You could be sitting somewhere and a foot will come up between you and the person next to you, because the person, that's, to me, that is hideous.
I would rather that you put your seat back and recline than I have to look at your foot next to my arm.
The other thing to consider and be aware of is that if you take your shoes off and there's an emergency, like you hit some turbulence, or God forbid you have to make an emergency landing, you might lose those shoes under your seat because they go somewhere, they slide. And then you are in a situation where you got no shoes on, but you have to make an evacuation from the plane with no shoes on. So I feel like I think all that stuff through in my mind, like worst case scenario. So I think I would probably not take my shoes off.
Also, if there's somebody else paddling around in bare feet and doesn't care more than you don't care, and you walk on that carpet and that person has some kind of athlete's foot thing going on.
Diseases.
See, and the fungicide aisle at CVS.
All right, let's move on. According to this survey, drivers have a lot of trouble with road signs, apparently. MyVision.org surveyed more than 1,000 drivers about road signs and other distractions that they face behind the wheel.
Wait. A roadside is not a distraction.
Oh, that's a good point. A roadside is an informational item, not a distraction.
Yeah,
yes.
A stop sign is there not to distract you. It's to get your attention and make you stop.
So let me rephrase that. 1,000 drivers were surveyed about road signs and also distractions they face when behind the wheel.
Okay.
How is that?
Yeah, that's better.
English teacher. You are an English teacher.
It's important to discern the difference there.
According to this, 60% of drivers have trouble on the road because of bad signs. Road signs can be tricky. I really hate it when there's a big split in the freeway coming up and there are multiple signs overhead telling you which lane to get in. I feel my heart racing and trying to make the decision as to which lane. You know the freeway from San Francisco across the Bay Bridge. When you have to figure out what lane to get in, there's the 80 going one way, the 580. There's two 580s, and then there's another one that goes downtown Oakland. It creates such panic in my head every time I do it, and I've done it a million times.
This is why I rarely get in my car and drive that way. I'm not kidding. I can't tell you the last time I did that. And it's not because when I get there, there's no place to go. There are places to go. There are restaurants, there are shops, there are all kinds of things. But honest to goodness, getting there, I feel like I've almost had a heart attack because it's like, oh my gosh, which way do I go? And I think, no, it's got to be clear. Maybe they need to color code these things and not make it all green and white print. I don't know.
Maybe
red lanes go
the
this way
green
to
and
the
white
city.
print is a question. I think they look nice in green and white. I wonder if black and white would be easier to see them. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I hate it when you're driving into the sun and the freeway signs are in between you and the sun.
Yeah.
And you can't read them. And you're looking for your exit and you simply cannot see the sign. Why don't they put some sort of laser lights or something in the letters so you can read it in any lighting situation?
I don't know, Bob. Why don't you call somebody and ask them? You know what? I mean, I'm sure there's better ways to.
I'm using this now as just a forum for my complaining. That's all.
Yes, well, yes, you are, but I think your complaint resonates with a lot of people, and I have sometimes felt that signs could be better. I'll tell you what does irritate me about signs. Sometimes, every now and then, you'll see where somebody wants to do some cute little font that's too small.
Yes.
It's adorable. It says, we're a village, not a town. Oh, baloney, you're a town, number one. Number two, you know what? Either use a clear font, but make the sign big enough so I can see what street it is.
Yes. I mean, come on. Even street signs are that way.
Let's start with those.
These cute little streets, the crisscrossy ones, you mean, at the intersections, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Small little signs.
And sometimes they'll give you a sign for the street you're approaching, but they won't give you a sign to tell you what street you're on. Sometimes I'm not even sure what street I'm on.
That's true.
They need to.
I mean, they need to mark this a little better. I found that in downtown San Francisco, for the most part, when I was frequenting downtown a lot more, I did find that most of the street signs were large. And if I went to another town, or if I went back east to visit the family, I would notice that I think, why don't they make the signs bigger like they do in California? Or at least in our
They're trying to be cute. They're trying to be suburban.
Yeah, cute doesn't cut it. You want cute? You go on HGTV and do a room makeover. You want me to know where I'm going when I'm sitting there driving, 2 tons of steel or whatever it is, and I want to know where I'm going. I don't want to be looking around and then people are honking because you don't know where you are, and then you've got to pull over and where are you? And you go around the block and you're wasting gas, and I mean, it's a nightmare. Fix the font.
Big cities have it covered. Big cities know. New York, San Francisco, Chicago. When you know what street you're on because you can see the street sign.
You need a plain font, and it needs to be big enough, and there needs to be a high contrast black letters on a white or off-white sign is what's going to work. Apparently,
1 out of 4 drivers think they should not have to be tested for their driver's license once they've done it once. So if you're 16 years old and you get your driver's license, they think that's good enough for a lifetime.
Well, I have to say, they're probably wrong, although I would hate the idea of getting behind the wheel and taking a driver's test with somebody because of an unclear direction or something. I would feel like, oh my God, I failed driving even after I've been driving for a million years.
Yes, so, I do not want to have to take a driver's test, but in reality, and what do you think about seniors being required to be tested more frequently?
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, we're the ones that don't want to take the test, but on the other hand,
we don't want to lose our licenses either.
No, but also you do have to take the written test every couple of years. And if you're failing that badly, then that may raise another flag on the official side. So
we could probably do a whole episode on how to take the keys away from an aging parent.
Ooh.
Because at some point, I would think children will recognize that the parent shouldn't be driving long before the parent realizes it. And he or she will fight you to the end to keep that car and keep those car keys.
I will say that I was lucky with my mother because she at some point realized she didn't really want to drive anymore. She didn't feel that she was quick enough, or for whatever reason she decided she wasn't using it. She was paying too much, so she got rid of her car. She sold it.
That's great. She recognized it first. You didn't have to force the keys out of her hand.
She also, and when she was in New Jersey, my brother was living with her, and he had a car, so she needed to go. And she had friends who were a little younger who could drive. There's always call a cab. You can do that too. There's ways to get around. I have friends our age who have said, I don't need a car. I mean, a car is an expense. It's the insurance,
It
it's
is.
the upkeep, it's the gas, it's the gas, it's the gas. Did I
Yeah.
mention that?
I wouldn't mind somebody driving me around. That
Yeah,
would be
I mean,
kinda
it's-
nice.
you-
Although
so
I
you might
like
have
the
to wait
freedom
for
to be able to
somebody.
jump in the car when I want. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, think about you don't have to park it. I mean, it's just easier. It's good to be queen.
According to this survey, 22% have resorted to calling 911 on a bad driver. I've wanted to do that. Have you ever done that?
No,
When
I've
somebody
never-
is like
I've never
driving
done it.
recklessly, you want the cop to catch him. But if you call 911, they're not going to catch him,
No.
and they're not going to even be bothered by you.
I think probably by the time you stop, pull out your phone, call the cops. It may or may not be too late, depending on where you are. If you're in some back roads in a local town, then yeah, you could do it. I saw a particular car, particular color, model, what have you. You're probably not going to have the driver's license because you might not have had time to write that down. But I mean, if you can, fine. But at some point, I guess somebody will catch this person. The problem is catch them
Yeah.
before there's an accident.
That's always my concern. And
Yeah.
once I see somebody doing that, I'm always afraid that I'm about to come upon a big traffic block, and it'll be because that guy had an accident. And
I tell you
now
what
I'm behind
what
him.
I do though now, and I'm sure a lot of people do this, and I don't think it matters whether you're younger or older driver. But if you want to avoid the problem, if I see somebody driving crazy or trying to speed or get ahead of me or whatever, I let them go. I stay my
Yeah,
distance.
just let them go. No,
Right.
you got to get out of their way. That's the
Yeah.
real thing to do. Just get out of their way. Make space. 92% have seen someone else texting while driving, but only 16% of respondents admitted to actually texting and driving themselves. I've seen people text, and I have to admit, I'm among the 16%. I know.
You didn't.
I've done it. I've texted
You've
and driven.
texted? Do you do it with
Not
voice?
not a lot. But if somebody else, if it's my kids or something, and I'm driving, and I can't get the voice activation thing to work, and it's a wide open road, and I can do it real quick, I have done it, and I know that's wrong, and I'm sorry.
Can you pull over and park and do it?
No, that's a situation where it's on a freeway or something where I can't. There's no pulling over. You can't pull
Okay,
over
but
and
try to
park.
understand one thing. Even if it's your kids, and I understand you want to, for sure,
I
answer them as
shouldn't
soon
have
as you
done
can.
it. No.
But, yeah, you can have an accident, and then you
I
can't
get an
help
accident.
them.
No, I'm right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. It was wrong. And so my apologies. Finally, nearly 7 out of 10 admit they do other things at a stoplight rather than pay attention to the road. So when you
At a
pull
s-
up to a stoplight, do you like rummage through your purse? Do you like put your makeup on? Do you write an email?
Well,
Gotcha.
I have checked my lipstick. And generally speaking, I don't touch it up unless I know I am sitting at a light that notoriously is going to be at least 5 minutes sitting here. Half my life is going by. No,
Yeah,
I generally don't. I fix my lipstick in a car, in a mirror, and I am most often 99.99% parked.
I think that's reasonable. I think, listen, we just have to be aware that we're not endangering anyone's life. And I feel like if you're at a stoplight that takes a long time because you've been at it a million times and you want to check your makeup, check your makeup.
You know what?
It's not going to kill anybody.
You know what the bottom line is for this? Focus. One thing at a time.
Yeah.
We are so multitasking oriented. We think we're going to get points and trophies in the big grade book in the sky. We'll get A pluses if we can do 9 things at once. Trust me when I tell you, if you're doing 9 things at once, 8 of them you're not doing well.
That's a good way to close this episode of Older and Wiser. Although, we still need your thought for the day. So, Susan, what is your final thought for today?
Focus and do unto others. It should get you through.
Okay, I love it. That'll do it for us. We're glad you joined us today on Older and Wiser. For all the stuff that matters when you're 60 plus, visit us at olderandwiser.com, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, Susan.
Bye-bye.